Welcome. You're about to challenge everything you've been taught about happiness. Society tells you to chase it, to seek it out as if it's some elusive prize just out of reach. But what if I told you the pursuit of happiness is a fool's game? What if true peace lies not in the endless chase, but in letting go of that very pursuit? Stoic philosophy, forged in the crucible of ancient wisdom, has always rejected the idea that happiness is something to be chased. It's a fleeting shadow, a mirage that slips through your fingers the moment you think you've grasped it. In this world of chaos and fleeting pleasures, the Stoics offer a path that leads to something far greater than happiness, true contentment, inner peace and freedom. Today we will uncover why Stoics don't chase happiness and why you shouldn't either. Instead of running after an illusion, we'll explore how to embrace life as it is, mastering our inner world and living with purpose, discipline, and virtue. Are you ready to let go of the lies? Let's begin. Lesson 1. The myth of happiness. The world today is consumed with the idea of happiness. It's as if it's the one goal that everyone strives toward, the ultimate prize that will fix all of life's ills. You hear it everywhere: you deserve to be happy. Live your best life. Do what makes you happy. It's the dominant message of our time: pursue happiness above all else, and you'll have lived a successful life. But what if I told you that this chase, this relentless pursuit, is a lie? What if the idea of happiness, as society defines it, is not something worth chasing at all? The Stoics understood this truth centuries ago. They didn't chase happiness, and they knew why you shouldn't either. Happiness, as we know it today, is not the goal. It's a fleeting, unstable emotion that can never be fully relied upon. It comes in waves, with its highs and lows, often dictated by circumstances beyond our control. To pursue it is to anchor your life to something unreliable, and in doing so, you're setting yourself up for frustration and disappointment. When we look at the culture around us, it's clear that happiness has been sold as the ultimate destination. There's a popular narrative out there: if you have enough money, enough success, the right relationships, or the perfect lifestyle, then you'll be happy. But this is the same lie that the Stoics saw centuries ago. They recognized that happiness, as defined by modern standards, is always tied to external circumstances, things you can't control. So, the more you chase it, the more it slips through your fingers. Consider this: when was the last time you felt genuinely happy? Was it when you bought a new car? When you received a compliment or an achievement? It felt good for a moment, didn't it? But how long did that happiness last? A few hours? A day? A week? It fades, doesn't it? And in that fading, we're left with a sense of emptiness, always chasing after the next thing to fill that void. It's a cycle that never ends, because happiness, in this form, is a temporary state that depends entirely on external forces. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, warned us against the very pursuit of happiness. In his Meditations, he said, happiness depends upon ourselves. He wasn't speaking of some whimsical internal feeling of joy. He was speaking about the internal power we have over our own minds. Happiness, when chased as an external goal, is always elusive. But contentment, peace, and strength, the virtues the Stoics valued, are within your control. These things are not fleeting. They are lasting. Here's where the myth starts to unravel. When you build your life on the pursuit of happiness, you are essentially telling yourself that your well-being depends on things outside your control. But what happens when those things shift? What happens when the relationship ends, the promotion doesn't come, or the money runs out? What happens when the next new thing doesn't provide the same satisfaction as the last? This is the trap the Stoics warned against. The moment you tie your happiness to something external, you hand over your power. You put your emotional state in the hands of the world, things that can change in an instant, things that are beyond your influence. And you set yourself up for failure. It's a pursuit that will never truly satisfy you. It will only leave you more desperate and disillusioned, constantly seeking the next source of happiness, only to watch it fade once again. Let's talk about the idea that you deserve happiness. Society has instilled this notion in us that happiness is not just a goal, but a right. You see it everywhere: you deserve to be happy. It sounds nice, doesn't it? But the Stoics would have cautioned against this thinking. The belief that you deserve happiness is a dangerous one because it sets you up with expectations that are not grounded in reality. Happiness, as an ongoing state of pleasure or satisfaction, is not guaranteed to anyone. Life is full of challenges, pain, loss, and hardship. If you live with the expectation that happiness is your birthright, you will find yourself crushed every time you face discomfort or adversity. The Stoics didn't believe happiness was a right. They believed peace of mind and inner contentment were the rewards of living a virtuous life. A life of discipline, self-control, wisdom, and courage. They understood that life was not about avoiding discomfort or constantly seeking pleasure. It was about mastering oneself in the face of difficulty, maintaining integrity, and living according to nature. This, in turn, is the true source of contentment, a much deeper, more lasting form of well-being than the fleeting moments of happiness we so often chase. The Stoics taught that if you seek virtue instead of happiness, if you focus on the things you can control, your thoughts, actions, and reactions, then happiness will naturally follow. It won't be the primary goal, but it will be a byproduct of a life well lived. The contentment that comes from within is not contingent on external forces. It remains steady even when the storms of life hit. Take a moment to think about the people you know who are constantly chasing happiness. Perhaps it's a colleague or a friend who always seems to be looking for the next best thing: a new car, a bigger house, the perfect vacation, the next relationship. These things provide temporary pleasure, yes, but what happens when the pleasure fades? They're back to searching for the next source of happiness, never truly satisfied. This is the cycle of external chasing, and it's exhausting. Now, imagine living a life where your happiness isn't your goal. Instead, you pursue something far more meaningful: wisdom, self-discipline, courage, and virtue. Imagine living in a way that focuses on your inner strength and resilience, no matter what happens in the world around you. This is what the Stoics did, and this is the path they walked. They knew that the pursuit of happiness was a hollow one, and that peace and contentment are found in living a life in alignment with your values and virtues. So how do you stop chasing happiness? How do you break free from the myth that happiness is the ultimate prize? The first step is to stop expecting it to come from external things. Stop believing that your life will be better once you achieve certain milestones or acquire certain things. The Stoics teach us to embrace discomfort, to find peace even in struggle, and to develop an unshakable sense of self that doesn't rely on the unpredictable world around us. The next step is to focus on what you can control: your own thoughts, actions, and responses to life. If you live according to virtue with discipline and wisdom, you will find contentment, not because you're chasing happiness, but because you are living authentically true to yourself. Happiness, when it does appear, will be a natural result of a life lived with purpose. But even without it, you will find fulfillment. You will have peace. This is the lesson of the Stoics. Happiness is not something to chase. It's something to let go of so you can focus on what truly matters. And once you do, you'll discover that true contentment was never far from you, it was within you all along. Lesson 2. Happiness is fleeting. Now that we've exposed the myth of happiness, it's time to understand why happiness, as we often think of it, is not only elusive but fundamentally fleeting. In the modern world, happiness is often treated like a destination, a final point you reach once you've accumulated enough of the right things: money, love, success, status, or the perfect lifestyle. But the Stoics would argue that the pursuit of happiness itself is not just misguided, it's also dangerous. Why? Because happiness, as defined by the world, is a transient state. It cannot be held onto, and when you expect it to be constant, you set yourself up for inevitable suffering. Think about the last time you were truly happy. Perhaps you received a promotion, found out you were getting married, or bought something you'd wanted for years. The moment felt incredible, didn't it? But how long did that feeling last? A day, a week, a month at best. And then what happened? You were left chasing after the next high, the next fleeting moment of happiness, only to watch it slip away once again. The Stoics recognized this fleeting nature of happiness centuries ago. In their worldview, happiness was never the goal. Contentment, peace of mind, and virtue were the true aims of life. These are not dependent on external circumstances, nor are they affected by the rise and fall of emotions. Happiness, as we often experience it, is not a stable, enduring state. It comes in waves dictated by what's happening around us, what's happening to us. When things are going well, happiness feels abundant, but when challenges or setbacks arise, happiness evaporates as quickly as it appeared. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, speaks to this impermanence. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. He understood that external events, whether good or bad, are beyond our control, but the way we respond to them, the way we manage our thoughts, is where true peace lies. If your happiness depends on what happens to you, you are forever at the mercy of the world. But if your peace comes from within, if it's rooted in how you choose to think and act in any given situation, then no external circumstance, no matter how painful or joyful, can take that peace from you. Let's take a look at how happiness works in the cycle of desire. Our desires are like waves. Each new desire, when fulfilled, offers a momentary sense of pleasure, but it fades quickly, leaving a sense of emptiness behind. The Stoics called this hedonism, the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. They understood that pursuing pleasure in this way is a never-ending cycle. You satisfy one desire only for another to emerge. And each time the satisfaction is short-lived, leaving you craving more. Take the example of acquiring wealth. We often believe that if we just had a little more money, a little more security, we would be happy. But once that desire is satisfied, what happens? The satisfaction doesn't last long, and soon we're looking for the next source of happiness, the next goal to achieve. The more you chase after these fleeting highs, the more you find that true happiness remains out of reach. This cycle is not unique to money or possessions. It applies to everything we desire. Whether it's love, success, fame, or material possessions, all of these external goals bring only temporary pleasure, and they often leave us dissatisfied and empty once achieved. And this is exactly where the Stoics found their wisdom. They understood that these fleeting moments of happiness are not the path to fulfillment, nor are they worth the pursuit. Instead of seeking fleeting happiness, the Stoics encouraged us to aim for something far more stable, virtue. Virtue doesn't fade. It doesn't come and go with the tides of fortune. It doesn't depend on anything outside yourself. Virtue is about living in alignment with your values, your integrity, your sense of purpose, and your rational mind. Virtue is an internal state of being that isn't swayed by external events. So the first step to stepping off the hamster wheel of chasing happiness is recognizing that happiness, as we know it, is not permanent. It's not a constant, it's a momentary feeling that comes and goes. And if you're constantly chasing it, you're like a dog chasing its own tail, running in circles, expending energy, but never getting anywhere. Instead of chasing after a fleeting emotion, shift your focus, pursue things that endure. Pursue wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control. These are the core virtues the Stoics championed, and they are the true sources of peace. When you live in accordance with these virtues, when you make decisions that align with your higher purpose, you cultivate a deeper sense of contentment that doesn't depend on what happens in the world around you. Living a virtuous life doesn't mean you'll never experience moments of happiness, but it means that your happiness won't be your primary goal. And more importantly, it means that you won't be destroyed when those moments of happiness fade. Your peace of mind will remain intact, regardless of the circumstances. This is the true strength of the Stoic way of life. It's not about denying joy or pleasure. It's about understanding that they are temporary. It's about recognizing that lasting contentment comes not from the pursuit of fleeting moments of happiness, but from the cultivation of wisdom, self-mastery, and a life of virtue. The Stoics also knew that by embracing discomfort and struggle, by confronting life's challenges head-on, we build resilience. Resilience, unlike happiness, doesn't fade with the next difficulty. It becomes stronger the more it's tested. True contentment is found in the strength of character, in the ability to endure hardship without losing peace of mind. So if you find yourself in a cycle of chasing after happiness, ask yourself, what if you stop? What if you focused not on acquiring more pleasures, but on cultivating a virtuous, resilient life? What if you chose to face life's challenges with courage and wisdom, knowing that, in doing so, you would find a deeper, more enduring sense of peace than any fleeting moment of happiness could ever offer? The pursuit of happiness is fleeting, but the pursuit of virtue leads to a lasting peace, one that is not dependent on external events, but is rooted in the very core of who you are. This is the lesson of the Stoics. True contentment doesn't come from chasing happiness, it comes from living a life of integrity, resilience, and purpose. Lesson 3. The trap of external validation. In our modern world, the idea of happiness is often tied to the approval and validation of others. Social media amplifies this cycle, constantly feeding us the notion that our worth is measured by how many people like us, follow us, or praise us. We live in a world where external validation is king, and our happiness becomes dependent on what others think of us, how they perceive our achievements, and how much admiration they give us. But the Stoics knew that this external validation is a trap, a dangerous trap that robs us of true peace and autonomy. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus warned against the need for external validation when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." He understood that if we allow our self-worth to be tied to the approval of others, we're handing them the power to control how we feel. The more you seek validation from others, the more you lose control over your own emotional state. You give others the ability to determine your happiness. Think about how often we base our sense of success or failure on the opinions of others. We go after promotions, awards, or public recognition, thinking that they will finally prove our worth. But how often does it happen that when we achieve those things, the satisfaction is short-lived? After all, once you get the promotion or the recognition, there's always another mountain to climb. The next goal, the next accomplishment, the next piece of praise, it never ends. The pursuit of external validation is an endless cycle that keeps you perpetually hungry, always reaching for something that can never fully satisfy you. The problem with relying on external validation is that it's entirely out of your control. The opinions of others are unpredictable and constantly shifting. One day someone may praise you, and the next they may criticize you. One day you may get approval, and the next rejection. If your happiness is tied to this unpredictable flow of approval and disapproval, your emotional state will always be at the mercy of the winds of fortune. The Stoics understood that this was not only unreliable but dangerous. A life built on the unstable foundation of external validation is a life always on edge, always chasing after approval that may never come or that may quickly slip away. Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, put it bluntly, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. What he was really saying here is that the more we rely on external things to validate us, the more we lose our inner peace. The pursuit of external validation feeds a bottomless pit. It can never be filled because it's always dependent on someone else's opinion. It's only when you stop seeking approval and start finding worth within yourself that you discover true freedom. This doesn't mean you stop caring about how others perceive you altogether. It means that your sense of worth is no longer dependent on it. You can still work hard, achieve success, and share your accomplishments with others, but your happiness should not hinge on their approval. When you no longer seek external validation, you liberate yourself from the cycle of pleasing others and begin to focus on what truly matters: your integrity, your values, your purpose. The Stoics taught that we should aim to be the best version of ourselves, not to impress others, but to live in alignment with our values and our purpose. It's about focusing on what we can control: our thoughts, actions, and responses. When you act with integrity, when you pursue virtue for its own sake, you no longer need the approval of others to feel good about yourself. Your self-worth is not dependent on their praise or their judgment. This is where true strength lies, in the ability to stand firm in your convictions, regardless of how others may perceive you. This is not arrogance, it's self-respect. It's the realization that your peace and happiness are not dependent on others, and that your worth is intrinsic, not something that can be given or taken away by someone else's opinion. A life focused on external validation is a life constantly in flux, at the mercy of others' judgments. But a life focused on internal validation, on living true to your values, on acting with integrity and purpose, brings with it a peace that remains unshaken, no matter what the world around you may say. The Stoics believed that true contentment comes when we stop chasing after the approval of others and start living according to our own moral compass. This doesn't mean you become indifferent to others entirely, but it means you no longer measure your worth based on their approval. It means your happiness is not dependent on the fickle opinions of others, but instead on your ability to live a life of virtue, to make decisions based on what is right and just, regardless of how they are perceived. Your inner peace becomes your measure of success, not the fleeting praise of others. The trap of external validation is seductive. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that if only others would recognize your value, you would finally be happy. But that's the illusion. Happiness based on the opinions of others is always temporary. It's like a drug. One hit of approval leads to another, but none of it will ever be enough to truly satisfy you. So, what's the answer? The Stoics would tell you to turn inward. Stop relying on the approval of others to validate your worth. Focus on living a life based on your own principles and values, and let that be enough. When you do this, you free yourself from the tyranny of others' opinions and find a peace that no one can take away from you. The approval of others will come and go, but your inner sense of worth, grounded in your values and virtues, will remain unshaken. It's time to stop chasing validation from the world and start looking inward. The peace and contentment that come from within are far more reliable than anything you could ever gain from external praise. This is the Stoic way, the way of living not for the approval of others, but for the pursuit of virtue and wisdom. It's time to free yourself from the trap. Lesson 4. The illusion of control. One of the greatest sources of human frustration is the illusion of control. We live in a world where we constantly try to shape and manipulate everything around us to meet our desires, to bend the world to our will. We believe that if we plan hard enough, work tirelessly enough, and anticipate every possibility, we can control the outcome of every situation. But the Stoics, with their unwavering clarity, knew the harsh truth. Much of what we believe we can control is nothing more than an illusion. The Stoics taught that while you can control your actions, thoughts, and responses, the world around you, everything external to you, is ultimately beyond your control. What happens in the world, how others behave, the decisions of governments or businesses, the weather, the economy, all of these things are outside your influence. Yet, so many of us waste endless amounts of energy trying to control things that are simply beyond our reach. And when we fail, as we inevitably do, we become angry, frustrated, and defeated. We feel as though the world has wronged us. But in truth, it is our expectations of control that have deceived us. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, understood this well. In his Meditations he wrote, "You wrote, cower over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This wisdom is not just an abstract idea, it is a practical guide to life." When you recognize that the only thing you truly have control over is yourself, you unlock a kind of freedom that is unavailable to those who constantly fight against the tide of events they cannot control. The idea that we can control external events is pervasive. It's built into the very fabric of our society. We are encouraged to control every detail of our lives, our careers, relationships, health, even the opinions of others. We create rigid plans, set unattainable goals, and constantly worry about what may or may not happen in the future. But in the process, we place an enormous amount of stress and pressure on ourselves, setting ourselves up for inevitable failure. The Stoics would say, stop trying to control what you cannot. Instead, focus on what you can control, your response to the world around you, your decisions, your internal state. This is where true strength lies. When you relinquish the illusion of control, you stop living in constant anxiety and frustration. You no longer spend your energy trying to control the uncontrollable, and instead you learn to navigate life's challenges with a calm, measured mind. Think of it this way: how much time do you spend worrying about things outside your control? How much energy do you waste trying to predict and manipulate outcomes? It could be the political landscape, a relationship that is beyond your influence, or an economic crisis. The truth is, no matter how hard you try, there are so many things in life that will never be in your hands. The only thing you can do is choose how you react to them. This doesn't mean you should resign yourself to passivity or inaction. On the contrary, the Stoics encouraged us to take purposeful action grounded in wisdom, virtue, and practicality. But that action is always focused on what is within your control, not on the uncontrollable forces outside of you. If you can learn to let go of the need to control everything, you can finally focus your energy on things that matter: your character, your virtues, your internal peace. Seneca, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, famously said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." How often do we spend our days fretting about future events that may never come to pass? We imagine worst-case scenarios, plot and scheme, trying to control a future that has yet to unfold. And in doing so, we waste time, energy, and peace of mind on things that we cannot even predict. The Stoics understood that this kind of mental energy spent on things outside our control was not just unproductive, it was harmful. It robbed us of the present moment and the serenity that comes with accepting the limits of what we can influence. When you stop worrying about the uncontrollable, you can devote your energy to what truly matters: your actions, your integrity, your growth. You no longer waste time trying to change the world around you, but you change the world within you. This is where true freedom lies, not in controlling every external factor, but in mastering your own mind and reactions. This shift in perspective is liberating. When you accept that some things are beyond your control, you can start living with intention and purpose. You can focus on the present moment, knowing that your reactions, your thoughts, and your actions are the only things that truly matter. If you focus on being the best version of yourself, regardless of external circumstances, you will find that the world becomes less overwhelming and more manageable. It's important to remember that this doesn't mean you stop taking action. Far from it. Stoicism is not about sitting idly by as the world moves around you. It's about taking action with wisdom, courage, and resilience, understanding that the outcomes of those actions are not entirely in your hands. You may act with your best intentions, but the results will depend on countless factors outside your control. For example, you may work tirelessly on a project, but despite your best efforts, it may not succeed. In such a situation, your peace doesn't come from the outcome, it comes from knowing that you did everything in your power. If you did your best, you can rest in the knowledge that you did not fail yourself, even if the results weren't what you expected. In the words of Epictetus, it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. The pursuit of control over everything external will only drain your energy and happiness. The Stoics teach us to focus our energy on cultivating internal strength, on responding with wisdom and calm to whatever life throws at us. When you stop fighting against the tide, you start flowing with it. You can't control the world, but you can control how you respond to it. And that is where true power lies. Let go of the illusion of control. The more you grasp at what is beyond your reach, the more you will suffer. But once you learn to embrace what you can and release what you cannot, you will experience a level of peace and strength that can never be taken from you. This is the Stoic way, the path of resilience, acceptance, and wisdom. Lesson 5. Embrace discomfort. In a world obsessed with comfort, luxury, and convenience, the Stoics offer a radically different perspective: embrace discomfort. While most people go to great lengths to avoid discomfort, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, the Stoics knew that true growth, resilience, and peace of mind arise from our ability to endure hardship with grace. It's in discomfort that we build strength, wisdom, and character. At first glance, the idea of seeking discomfort may sound counterintuitive. Why would anyone want to make life harder than it already is? But for the Stoics, life's challenges were not obstacles to be avoided, they were opportunities to strengthen the soul. The philosopher Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Just as lifting weights strengthens muscles, enduring hardship strengthens your mental and emotional faculties. Think of it this way: when you avoid discomfort, you avoid growth. You avoid the very experiences that have the power to teach you how to navigate life's inevitable challenges. Whether it's physical discomfort from exercise, emotional discomfort from facing personal truths, or mental discomfort from overcoming fear and doubt, each form of discomfort holds the potential to make you stronger. The Stoics knew that discomfort is inevitable. Life is filled with setbacks, challenges, and obstacles, but they believed that how we respond to discomfort determines our quality of life. If we meet discomfort with resistance, complaining, or avoidance, we only deepen our suffering. But if we meet it with acceptance and resilience, we transform it into an opportunity for growth. This mindset is deeply rooted in the Stoic practice of amor fati, the love of fate. Amor fati is the practice of accepting whatever happens in life, not as something to be avoided or resented, but as something to embrace. It's a radical acceptance of the present moment, no matter how difficult or painful it may be. For the Stoics, every hardship was an opportunity to grow, to strengthen character, and to deepen wisdom. Every challenge was an invitation to live in accordance with their values. Take, for example, the practice of voluntary discomfort. The Stoics would regularly put themselves in uncomfortable situations, not to punish themselves, but to train their minds and bodies to endure discomfort when it came. They understood that by regularly exposing themselves to discomfort, they would become less dependent on external comforts and more resilient in the face of adversity. Whether it was fasting, taking cold baths, sleeping on the floor, or going without luxuries, the Stoics intentionally sought discomfort as a way to cultivate self-discipline and mental toughness. This approach might seem extreme, but it's grounded in a deep understanding of human nature. The more we seek comfort, the more we become dependent on it. And the more dependent we are on comfort, the less capable we become of handling discomfort when it inevitably comes. Life, by its very nature, is full of uncertainties and challenges. If you've never learned how to endure discomfort, you'll be ill-equipped to face the inevitable hardships that life throws your way. Let's think about it from a practical perspective. If you're constantly seeking comfort, what happens when you face a difficult situation? Whether it's a personal crisis, a professional setback, or a physical challenge, if you've never practiced resilience, you'll be overwhelmed by the discomfort. You'll feel powerless, as though the situation is beyond your control. But if you've intentionally cultivated the ability to handle discomfort, you'll face the challenge with a sense of calm and strength. You'll know that you can endure because you've trained yourself to do so. The Stoics didn't just passively accept discomfort, they actively embraced it. They understood that discomfort was a natural part of life, and that avoiding it would only weaken them. In fact, they saw discomfort as a teacher, a guide that would help them develop the virtues of wisdom, courage, and self-discipline. When you embrace discomfort, you stop seeing it as something to be feared and start seeing it as something to be welcomed. You begin to realize that discomfort is not your enemy, it is your ally in the quest for growth and self-mastery. This concept is not about seeking unnecessary suffering or self-punishment. It's about changing your relationship with discomfort. It's about realizing that the discomforts you face are not obstacles to happiness, they are opportunities to build strength and resilience. Whether it's the discomfort of a tough workout, the discomfort of facing your fears, or the discomfort of enduring a personal loss, each of these experiences can help you grow. The more you embrace discomfort, the more capable you become of handling whatever life throws at you. The Stoics also understood that discomfort, while difficult in the moment, often leads to greater happiness in the long run. This is because overcoming discomfort builds a sense of pride, accomplishment, and mastery. When you push through difficulties and emerge on the other side, you experience a deep sense of satisfaction that can never be found in the pursuit of fleeting pleasures or comforts. You gain confidence in your ability to handle future challenges, and this confidence becomes a source of inner strength and peace. Furthermore, embracing discomfort helps you to detach from the need for external comforts and pleasures. You stop relying on external sources for happiness, and instead you cultivate an inner peace that is independent of circumstances. This is the core of Stoic philosophy. Happiness is not found in external things, but in the way we respond to life's challenge. By embracing discomfort, we learn to find contentment in the present moment, no matter how difficult or unpleasant it may seem. So, the next time you face discomfort, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, remember the Stoic wisdom: embrace it. Don't resist it, don't fight against it, welcome it as an opportunity for growth, and trust that in the process you will become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Life will never be free of discomfort, but your ability to endure it will determine your peace of mind and your overall sense of fulfillment. The Stoic path is not about avoiding pain or discomfort. It's about learning how to navigate it with grace, courage, and wisdom. By embracing discomfort, you cultivate the inner strength to face whatever life brings your way. And in doing so, you discover a deeper, more lasting happiness, one that comes from the strength of your character, not from the fleeting comforts of the world. Lesson 6. The power of acceptance. One of the most profound lessons the Stoics imparted was the power of acceptance. In our fast-paced, results-driven world, we often fight against the flow of life. We try to impose our will on circumstances, trying to force the world to conform to our desires. But the Stoics knew that true peace comes not from controlling everything around us, but from accepting what is, just as it is. This is the essence of the Stoic practice of amor fati, the love of fate. Seneca wrote, "A wise man is not disturbed by the things which happen to him, for he has accepted them as part of the natural order." The Stoics believed that to live a life of virtue, we must learn to accept everything that happens to us, both the good and the bad. We must understand that life is full of uncertainties, and our attempts to control the uncontrollable only lead to frustration. Instead of resisting, we must learn to embrace what comes our way with equanimity, seeing each moment as an opportunity to grow. Acceptance doesn't mean passivity or resignation. It means recognizing what is within our control and what is not. It means understanding that certain things, such as other people's behavior, the course of events in the world, or the circumstances we are born into, are beyond our influence. When we stop fighting against these external factors, we free ourselves from unnecessary stress and anxiety. The Stoic approach to acceptance teaches us that the world is neither good nor bad, it simply is. What matters is how we respond to it. When we accept things as they are, we stop wasting energy on regret or frustration. Instead of focusing on how life should be, we focus on how we can respond to it. We take the lessons from each experience, good or bad, and apply them to live a more virtuous life. Take the example of a challenging situation, such as a job loss or a personal failure. The typical response is to feel angry, upset, or defeated. We might dwell on what went wrong or wish we could have done things differently. But the Stoic response is different. The Stoic would say, don't fight against the reality of what has happened. Accept it, learn from it, and move forward. Amor fati means loving your fate, no matter how difficult it may seem. It means acknowledging that this event, as painful as it may be, is part of the unfolding of your life, and that you have the power to choose how you respond. The Stoics also understood that we don't control what happens to us, but we do control how we interpret it. We can choose to see obstacles as injustices or as opportunities for growth. We can choose to see hardship as a burden or as a way to strengthen our character. The power of acceptance lies in the shift of perspective. When we stop resisting reality, we begin to live in harmony with it. We no longer struggle against the current, we learn to navigate it. The key to acceptance is realizing that our expectations often set us up for disappointment. We expect life to unfold in a certain way, and when it doesn't, we feel let down. But if we accept that life is inherently unpredictable, we release ourselves from the need to control every outcome. We stop clinging to our own desires and accept that sometimes things just unfold as they will. This acceptance leads to a profound sense of peace, because we no longer need to fight against what is. We simply are. Lesson 7. Focus on what you can control. At the core of Stoic philosophy is a simple yet powerful principle: focus on what you can control. Life is filled with unpredictable challenges, and many things, other people's actions, the future, the world's chaos, are beyond our control. The Stoics understood this truth and realized that what we can always control is how we respond to those external forces. Epictetus said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." Your thoughts, your emotions, your actions are yours to govern. When you focus on what you can control, your own behavior, decisions, and mindset, you free yourself from the stress of trying to manage things outside your influence. This Stoic principle isn't about passivity. It's about accepting that we can't force outcomes, but we can decide how we engage with them. When you stop wasting energy on things beyond your control, you create space for peace and focus on what truly matters: your own virtues, your actions, and your growth. By mastering this mindset, you'll develop the strength to navigate any challenge with resilience, knowing that your power lies not in changing the world around you, but in how you respond to it. In the end, the Stoics teach us that happiness isn't something to chase. It's not found in external achievements, wealth, or praise. True happiness comes from within, from how we respond to life, from our commitment to virtue, and from the peace we cultivate through acceptance and self-mastery. So stop chasing happiness. Live a life grounded in purpose, integrity, and resilience. When you do, happiness will not be a distant goal, but a natural byproduct of living according to your values. The Stoic way is not about seeking pleasure or avoiding pain. It's about embracing life's challenges with wisdom, courage, and an unwavering focus on what you can control. This is the path to lasting peace and contentment.